baked pumpkin turnovers, or PASTIT in Chamorro, the native language of Guam. In the colander, I have about 90 ounces of canned pumpkin. That's straight up pureed pumpkin, not the pumpkin pie filling. 2 large cans that are about 29 ounces each, and 2 15-ounce cans. I set this in the fridge covered overnight so that much of the liquid can drain out of the pumpkin. If you do not, all of that liquid there is going to seep out of your turnovers as they bake. Now I put a plate because the feet of my colander is only about 1/4 inch high, and that way the liquid drains properly. I transferred the pumpkin into a pot between medium and medium low. This is 3 cups of dark brown sugar. Not light brown, dark brown. We want some color. It's going to get much darker, and you get a little bit more of the molasses flavor in there. That was 3 cups. This is a 1/2 cup of granulated white sugar, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We just want to combine this all together and heat it through for as long as it takes the sugar to melt. This filling can be used in the fried version called butsi butsi in Chamorro. You can also use fresh pumpkin, but you may have to adjust the seasoning, you know, with the flavor. It'll be better, just you may need more or less sugar. This filling is as delicious as it looks. There's a little bit of moisture collection at the corners, so go ahead and give it a little bit of a stir. Note that I transferred the filling from the pot into a 1/2 sheet roasting pan. I find these disposable pans so versatile in the kitchen. At any rate, I'm going to put some of this into a bowl and then keep the remaining filling in the fridge. In the bowl, I have 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. Just give this a stir. To this dry mixture, you're going to add 1 cup of white Crisco. And I prefer the brand name Crisco because, as you can see, it's pure white. Sometimes a off-brand version is off-white in color. My personal preference. Anyways, this is 1 cup here. You can use a pastry cutter to incorporate the shortening with the flour and sugar, but I'm just going to use my hands. You want this to resemble a coarse crumb texture. So I'll start with a fork. Now I've got about 3 cups of water in my pitcher. It's got some ice cubes, and it's been in my freezer for a little bit, just a couple of minutes. You're not going to use the whole thing. So sometimes some people take the whole volume of water in a recipe and dump it all into the dry mixture, and it becomes too wet. So you always want to start adding a little bit of your liquid at a time, because depending on the humidity and the type of flour, it could vary from place to place where you're making this dough. And just continue to do this until you get a nice soft mass. Eventually I'll switch over to my hand so I get a better feel of the texture of the developing dough. If you stick to just the fork throughout, the dough might get too wet. But you can fix with a little bit more flour, but a little safety net here. And again, I'm not kneading it. If you knead this mixture, it's going to be tough once you've baked the turnovers. Now, I wouldn't call this dough flaky, but it is very tender. Another thing I like about this particular pastit recipe is that you can hold the turnover in your hand and it's not oily or buttery. And I actually prefer this the next day, so if I bake some today, I'd rather have it tomorrow. So my dough is about done. Okay, all I've done was kind of rotate this mass around in the bowl as opposed to kneading it. Okay, so it'll be a little loose, not sticky, and I'm ready to roll it out. I have enough dough here to roll out and make 2 turnovers. Dust your surface, the dough a little bit, your rolling pin. And pick up the dough so that you know it's not sticking. I haven't made turnovers in 4 years. Only my husband and myself like the pastit, the baked version. My daughter prefers the fried. And of course there's always other things to make. But this recipe, it's in my cookbook, A Taste of Guam, if you have that. This should fit 2. Should make 2 rounds. It's my little pot cover. I think I got this at a consignment store, Goodwill or something in Washington State. Not quite gonna fit in. The crust doesn't rise a whole lot. It does a little bit. So if you like your crust thinner, or thicker rather, this is thicker than 1/8 of an inch, but thinner than 1/4 inch. Or not bigger than 1/4 inch thick. So let's just set this aside. I have the bowl of dough to my right covered in plastic wrap. And just a filling. This is about 2 to 3 tablespoons. Just fold it over and press together. For this, I don't moisten the edges with water like I do other turnover recipes, because I'm going to use a fork and it's going to seal it perfectly. And then you're going to prick it 3 times. And when these bake, after about 20 minutes, you'll have to prick the holes again. But okay, and then set this aside on a pan lined with wax paper or parchment paper. And once you fill that pan with shaped turnovers, oh, the dough is so tender. We're going to freeze it until it's rock solid and then bake. So here's that leftover scrap. Just kind of bunch it in a round and we'll roll this out. And you don't necessarily have to cut this one with the pastry cutter or the pan cover. Flour. But just roll it out so you can make a turnover. You don't want to re-roll the leftover scraps more than once. It's about right. Not pretty, but you know, it works. Maybe come down a little bit. We'll go this way. Bring it over, and that's too much, but if so, scoop a little out. And if you want it to be pretty, you can trim around, but this is just for us. No big deal. You're gonna have to hold the pastry taut to get the fork in. There we go. I've got 6 pastit or turnovers, and I'm just brushing it with a mixture of 1 egg yolk and about a tablespoon of whole milk. Okay, these are frozen solid. My oven has been preheating at 350. I started making pastas sometime in my college years, the first year or two, and it was pretty good until I met Auntie B. Fabiano, who lived in Bremerton, Washington, and she made the best pastit and apple turnovers. So she showed me how to handle the dough. That is very gently. And since then, I've been following her advice and making delicious turnovers. Okay, these will go into the oven 20 minutes, and then you're going to get a fork and prick the holes onto the pastry again and let it bake for another 25 minutes. Yum! These just came out of the oven. I'm going to cool them for a couple of minutes on a wire rack and then break one open for you. It's been just a few minutes, but I wanted to show you before I get going here. See, it's still piping hot, nice and full. It's a very tender crust, like I said, and it's not oily to the touch, so it's a great on-the-go item. Good for the holidays or any time of year.